How do you cut me? Vertically, horizontally?
Well, I think you probably vertically.
Then I'm in trouble. Do you want me to get out of your way? Am I in your way?
No.
So, no. We'll start 3, 2, 1.
Sorry for saying sorry. Media presents the Purr Podcast, the best podcast for feline medicine and surgery with tips, tricks, and updates for the entire veterinary healthcare team. If you're dying to know more about cats, keep on listening. Here are your hosts, Dr. Susan Little, famous cat vet and textbook author, and Dr. Jolle Kirpensteijn, talented surgeon and social media geek.
Hello, this is Dr. Jolle Kirpensteijn.
And this is Dr. Susan Little.
And we're very excited because this is the second podcast that we're talking with the famous Steve Dale.
Yay! And finally, I get to interview Steve Dale.
I know. It's always the way around, it seems like, Steve.
Yeah, it's always the other way around. Normally, you interview us.
Yes, normally I do, and especially, I think I've interviewed Dr. Little, let me check, 8,912 times. So this is the first time.
Indeed.
I've been looking forward to this. This is my career highlight. I can now say my career is, I could just stop
It's
tomorrow.
all downhill from here.
It could be.
And I feel a little neglected here, but that's okay.
Who are you?
Okay. Yeah, exactly. That's why.
Who's this guy?
Last time, when we were in Chicago last time, you said, I could have interviewed you if you would have let me know that you were there. And I'm like, that was my chance.
Oh, Yola's not feeling the love.
Oh, no. Actually,
Not
I'm
yet.
happy to do it the next time you're in
Wonderful.
Chicago. Anytime.
Thank you. So,
Tell us a little bit about how Winn started. I mean, I know this story, but let for everybody else, let's tell us how.
Sure. So, first of all, Dr. Little knows this story because she has been so much a part of the Winn Feline Foundation history. The Winn Feline Foundation has been very lucky over the years. I've been involved 13 years or so now, something like
easily.
that.
Steve, this
Where
is
I've been
kind
on the
of
board.
a timestamp for Susan. We don't want to get there, because she might get, I think she is still
We don't
in
wanna
her 20s. So,
Well, I am, of course. Yes.
Yes. So when
in her previous life, she was very important. Yes.
well, she was 6 years old at the time.
There you go.
Yeah.
But
Child prodigy.
She really was. Wynn's been very fortunate to get the right people at the right time.
Yeah, many good people.
Yes,
right.
and you were absolutely one of them.
Proud to be part of it.
You changed the course of the Winn Feline Foundation.
Just the
You
right
really did.
timing.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you did. And the Winn Feline Foundation began 51 years ago now.
Wow.
Through a gentleman by the name of Robert Winn, who's long passed away, who was then involved with breeding cats with the Cat Fanciers Association, who said, you know what, I wish we had more studies about cats.
Yeah, good point.
And it went from there, which was $0 at the beginning, whatever you had to pay to become a 501c, which was something like $25. Mm-hmm. So it went from $25 to where the Winn Feline Foundation is today, to the extent that pretty much when you guys talk about cats, and you know this better than I know it, when you talk about cats up on stage, nearly everything you talk about was once funded, that science was once funded.
Some part, some way.
By the Winn Feline Foundation.
And there's been some groundbreaking, famous studies. The one I always like to talk about the best is another heart disease story, and that's Paul Pion and taurine, right?
And it's funny how that's coming up again, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, that study you referred to, cats were getting very ill and often dying of dilated cardiomyopathy. And Paul Pion had this crazy idea, and it was considered a crazy notion back then.
Yep.
That the reason for this has to do with nutrition. And back at that time, even today, you're the expert here, people don't think of nutrition connecting to all these things that they should.
All these medical
issues. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a basic entity. Yeah? People just believe that, you eat and you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
But it is so important, especially for our pets, that this is the only thing we feed them. And if we don't think about that it's a balanced diet, pets can get in trouble.
Yep.
So
and they were getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So and we know that a lot of new diets are very specific or fancy or whatever to the needs of the owner more than to the pet.
Yeah.
And then it's disrupts that balance.
Yeah, marketing people have a lot to say, and sometimes nutritionists don't with these smaller companies, which is a whole different issue, but it's a true issue. So in any case, back then, Paul Payan said, this is what I believe. It was out of the funding cycle, but Winn said, this is really important.
Winn took a chance, and wow, amazing results, because we rarely see in cats anymore dilated cardiomyopathy, and it's all down to that, like, one key discovery.
Yep.
Right? Just amazing.
And fast forward the clock.
Yes.
I just spoke to a researcher who said, I am working on stem cells for GI disease in cats. And I can't believe it, he said. It's even better than what I thought about it. I mean, the results aren't in yet. It's not published. He's in phase 2 of the study. Phase 1, Winn-funded. Phase 2, Winn-funded. There needs to be a phase 3. But what happened was there was a bit of press about it, and a donor came in, and huge amount of money. I can't be specific because I'm not supposed to be here. But the idea is, as a result of initial Winn funding, now a private donor has come in and said something bad happened. I presume something bad happened to this person's cat, where they care that much about this issue, and now this is going to move fast forward. The point is stem cells. That's kind of cutting edge. So the Winn Feline Foundation has always been sort of ahead of the curve, and I would argue we continue to be.
Yeah, it's interesting that one of Winn's roles is often to get the ball rolling, to fund that initial concept, that initial idea that then may get taken up, by other granting agencies or other donors.
And ultimately, this could be the National Institutes of Health, because there seems to be a correlation with humans here potentially. So, and that wouldn't be the first time that that's happened with a Winn project. So, with the Winn Feline Foundation, I feel very, very connected to, and I'm grateful to still be on the board.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it also links back to the fact what you're doing in real life, which is kind of translating this kind of stuff, because that's really on a high scientific level, to back to the consumer, which are your listeners, and how can you translate this difficult information to information that people understand?
How do I do it?
Yeah.
How do you?
Because that's a skill set.
What's the magic?
Yeah,
I don't
it
know.
Is a skill
Elevator
set.
I don't know.
I get asked at times to talk to pet owners about things, and I really struggle with that.
Really?
I do, because
you're so good.
No, but I am so used to communicating with veterinarians and veterinary team members that to make that kind of shift and change, like, your language to speak to a pet owner, to me this is a huge struggle for me. It's you're what I love about you is that you naturally are able to fit that audience, and you and I have lectured together at veterinary meetings, right? And you have no trouble then shifting to the veterinary audience, right?
Well,
so when you're
very
talking
lucky.
When you're talking to pet owners, how do you communicate? What's different?
Well, here's part of what's different. I'm not talking about surgery here. I generally talk about behavior. So that's something that resonates with most pet owners anyway. So I doubt you guys go to a party, say, I'm a veterinarian, and they're not asking you, I mean, maybe they're asking you about heart disease, maybe they're asking you about nutrition, but what they mostly ask about is, why does my cat do that? Why does and sometimes those answers are just curious questions people have. They want to know what their cat is really thinking. The question I love so often, does my cat or another species really love me? I get that
Do people ask you that?
all the time.
No
and how do I know? More with cats than other species.
Yeah, they relate differently.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah, I get that all the time. But
and
often,
how can you tell?
Yeah, what do you say?
Yes, Steve.
Cats communicate with us all the time, and they're so cats, people think, are not communicating, and they're aloof, and they don't want to have anything to do with us, and all those things. And that is the opposite of the case. They just communicate very differently than the other species does. And that species that begins with the letter D, we actually evolved with that species. So I would argue we're hardwired to understand them, for one thing. The second thing is they are more clear in how often...
their signaling.
Yes, absolutely. Perfect, yes. And cats you have to pay a bit more attention to. But they are always communicating with us, often on purpose, and we don't even get that. Yeah. So here's something I get all the time. I'm petting my cat, and my cat bites me.
Yeah.
But cats sometimes will just do that. Hyperesthesia syndrome sometimes, I suppose, and sometimes just do that. Maybe pain or just that individual quirky cat. But usually there are all sorts of signals going on. You know, the whiskers go out and the ears go up and the eyes dilate. All those things happen. Maybe a piloerection, the tail's going back and forth. Maybe not all those things, but they're not paying attention necessarily. Or they don't understand those signals. Some people, even who have had cats their entire life, think that, oh, the tail's going back and forth, I've got a happy cat.
I agree with you. I've met a lot of cat owners who maybe have had generations of cats and still don't quite get the subtleties of cat communication. Right?
And sometimes, I agree, and sometimes it's so subtle that, and the cats aren't communicating to us on purpose. So the cat who has a litter box on the first floor, but spends a lot of time upstairs in the bedroom is now 18. And is now thinking outside the litter box and having accidents upstairs.
Yeah, because who wants to go down a level when you're old?
Wonder why.
Well,
and you're arthritic, and it's nighttime and you can't see.
Exactly. So what that cat is communicating is, I've got everything you just said, maybe difficulty seeing, maybe I hurt a lot because I have arthritis. And
the new young cat is downstairs really
maybe, yes, that could be too. Or the kids or whatever. So, but people don't necessarily put that together, is my experience.
The Winn Feline Foundation has been funding cat health studies for 51 years. If you have a cat or have ever treated a cat, nearly everything we know was once funded by this nonprofit, totaling about $6.5 million. From understanding retroviruses, FELV and FIV, to more recently targeting gene defects responsible for HCM in the Ragdoll and Maine Coon breeds. The Winn Feline Foundation Pet Memorial Program offers veterinary professionals an opportunity to reassure clients that their beloved cats have not been forgotten, and those dollars support health studies that benefit the lives of all cats. Contributions totaling $150 or more receive a certificate suitable for framing or display in your clinic. Imagine being able to treat kidney disease more effectively, using stem cell therapy to cure stomatitis, or drugs that treat FIP are actually within grasp. Consider your support and telling your clients about the Winn Feline Foundation and a free newsletter at winnfelinefoundation.org.
So it sounds like your job is a lot of what you do is explain cats to people.
Yes, it's about I never thought I would, when I first began doing this, I'd be certified as an animal behavior consultant.
And a very good one.
I don't know, but thank you. But there wasn't such a thing as an animal behavior consultant at that time. But now I am, and you're right. I get to speak at veterinary so I will say that I have a unique niche because I speak at veterinary conferences. I'm going from here to this coming Sunday, the Lincoln State Cat Show, where I'm speaking.
Which is a big show.
Yeah. Where I'm speaking to cat breeders primarily and the general public. Yeah. So I do, and then a few days after that, I'm speaking at an animal shelter. So it's just a wide variety, and I'm very lucky. I don't really know anybody
else who does that.
Yeah.
I think you're quite unique in that.
Yeah.
So I'm a little intrigued. So you said a common question that pet owners give you is, does my cat love me?
Yes.
What's another common question cat owners ask you?
Well, the most common one is, why is my cat missing the litter box?
Yeah.
And that's the number one reason why cats die. So it isn't renal disease, and it's not cancers, and it's not cardiomyopathy. It's cats who are having a behavior issue. And I don't even want to say it's a behavior problem. It's amazing to me. I'll go into one home, and I'm going into that home because the cat's jumping on the counters. So I go into the home. All the cats are on the counters. This is a true story. All the cats are on the counters everywhere. And she wants it stopped. So, okay, I don't do a lot, but I made a house call, right? I walk into the house. I am knocked over by the smell. Yes.
Oh, wow.
That was not her complaint.
Isn't that amazing?
You've got all these cats. She's got like 3 litter boxes and 8 cats, The boxes are all in the same room, so it's all predictable.
Yeah.
I ended up saying, in a nice way.
Can we talk
I tried
about
to say, yes. I tried to say,
Can we
but
not
that didn't
talk
bother.
about the counter?
Yeah, but that it didn't work well.
Yeah.
It didn't bother her.
Yeah.
She really didn't want to add boxes or do any of that. She didn't seem to care. What she cared about was the kitchen counters and the dining room table.
You
Maybe
know?
the cats thought that the smell was less bad on the counter than
there you
anywhere
go.
else.
Yeah, really. The cats couldn't have been happy about that smell either.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think veterinarians would say too that's a really common question or problem.
It's the number one
Yeah.
reason why people put their cats into the shelter.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is.
Yes.
And as Steve says, that often results in death, or the owner doesn't even go to the shelter because they feel nobody's going to adopt that cat anyway,
Yeah.
and they'll request euthanasia for that pet. So
Yes.
I think that's we don't talk about that often enough, that the leading cause of death in cats is some behavior issue.
I agree.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And
Which is sad.
yes, and usually fixable.
And yeah,
That's the thing.
often fixable.
And then what happens is they go online and they read blah, 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 blah online, and what they read online may be right, but oftentimes it's not. And anytime, and I don't have to tell this audience this, but what I tell the general public, and I this is my number one communication message now. Anytime there's a change in your animal's behavior, cat or
The
ferret,
other- the
parrot,
lesser
or
species.
any other species, which at this point it doesn't matter if I name because I'm so far behind the eight ball. But that there's probably a medical explanation for it. It may not be behavior. So that cat that is suddenly not using the box could have kidney disease, right?
Yeah.
Could have diabetes. Could
Yeah.
be hyperthyroid. Though the list goes on.
Idiopathic cystitis.
Yes.
There's lots of
Yeah.
reasons
And that's
why.
an important message because I think a lot of people do not connect behavior change to medical, issues.
It's true.
Right? And if we can make that connection and drive them into the veterinarian, we'd save more lives that
I
way.
totally agree. And that goes back to those kitten classes. And also things like the American College of Veterinary Behaviorists is coming out with a book in 2020 called
Yes.
Decoding Your Cat.
Yeah,
Yes,
we are
that's
going to
awesome.
talk to one of the authors
Yes.
as well.
Excellent.
We have an upcoming podcast.
I
with
know.
You
one.
do?
We
It's
do.
so
Oh,
exciting.
I'm excited about that book
Yep.
too. I wrote the introduction or the foreword or something.
So I'm
So
very excited.
Why
that
do
it's
we
coming
have
out.
to wait until 2020? Maybe we should
Talk to
ask-
publishers about that. That's the only reason why.
Yeah.
People don't understand how long it takes to publish
No.
a book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe.
Susan knows.
I don't.
She
I know.
knows.
She knows.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it takes a long
and
time.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
It takes a long time, mainly because Susan's slow, but nonetheless.
And she complains a
Publishers.
lot about it too.
Well, publishers are slower.
Yeah.
So-
Yes, it's a long, retracted process.
Yes,
it
yes. But I am excited that the book is coming out.
Well,
it's a done deal.
decoding your D.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, you did it again. So
I at this
sorry,
point, I might as well give up.
I'm sorry, I kind of led you into that.
Yeah, you did a
But
little.
anyway, that book came out a number of years ago now.
It did really well.
Yeah, and it did
Yes.
really well. So I'm
Yes.
very excited that this
and
sort of companion for the cat.
and I was the force behind that book because I thought what happened with that book is we were walking out of a session at this conference. And there's
this
a
specific one.
yes,
Oh, wow.
not this year's.
Yeah,
I
but-
mean,
No,
this-
no.
yeah, but it was Western States,
Oh, wow.
and there's a slight walk from the convention center to
As we know.
to the elevators.
Yeah, as
And-
our fitness trackers know.
Yes. So I'm walking out, and I was just in a session where all of these veterinarians were talking about dominance in that other species because of a TV show at the time. And a behaviorist came up to me and he said, "This is so ridiculous. I
Yeah.
can't believe these knowledgeable people are not being so knowledgeable, really, and asking about it. So what can we do? How can we elevate our platform to get the science out there?" And I said, write a book. Like, put on a show.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they ultimately were able to do. And the book did really, really well. And what I'm most proud of is not only the information based on science in the book, but is that the American College of Veterinary Behaviorists, if you Google any issue now related to that other species, if you Google, you will get veterinary behaviorists that come up now
Yeah.
in Google. That didn't previously
Yeah.
happen.
So in
And-
2020, we can do the same
For
thing
the
then
cat.
for the cat.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're so excited about that. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. We are almost at the end
What?
of our
Oh, no, see
podcast
how
already.
fast it
You know, this
goes.
goes really fast. So
Oh,
we
but
need,
I have hours to talk
yeah,
to
we
you
need
more.
to get you back.
We will.
Anytime.
But-
Anytime.
So Susan, one more question for you, and then one more question for me, and then we're wrapping it up.
Okay, so what is? I'm going to circle back to the Winn Feline Foundation. It's come up in many of our podcasts, and I never tire of talking about it. So I just, what is one of the current research projects that's been funded that you're most excited about?
Well, I spoke about stem cells, so since I answered that one already.
Yeah. Other than that, then.
Yeah. So here's the one. So we know that for some people that are autistic, children, that a certain species with 4 legs that begins with the letter D can be helpful, but not necessarily, because sometimes they are too effusive. And
too overwhelming.
And there's a tactile issue apparently. I'm no expert on autistic children by any means, but that's what I've been told. So now we funded a study about cats to see if, because cats may be more deliberate, that may be more helpful to these children.
What a wonderful human-animal bond subject.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Awesome.
That is awesome.
Okay, last question. Here we go. So what is the hottest and latest cat news that you have received?
The latest cat news I've received.
Yeah, you're a news guy now.
Well, I'd say that the latest news about cats. I think that this is the latest news, and I referred to it briefly, and I'm talking about this tomorrow morning at this conference. I've been out there, so I talk at veterinary conferences mostly about behavior. But I've also been talking about how veterinary visits have been down. Here's what you can do, because I'm in the media. So here's what you could do to help support and market your specific practice. Here's the news, and it's doom and gloom, So now I'm not doing doom and gloom. I'm talking about how visits are bouncing back, and it's millennials that are leading the way. And I'm talking about exactly what they want. But most benefiting by this are cats. Awesome. I mean, look, who goes to cat cafes?
Yeah.
Who posts
Well,
those?
I do. I'm no millennial, but I go to cat cafes.
He says you're a millennial. You're a millennial. I buy it.
I'm one at heart, I guess. Yeah.
But it's the millennials that began this whole thing and post all those images. I mean, who would have thought 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that we'd have all these celebrity cats on Instagram? And it's, again, the millennials pushing all this. Even the notion of words like fur babies came from them. So
that's good news.
It's great news. I don't know if that's
This
the kind of
is
news
a
you're looking for.
Perfect ending. Of
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's a perfect ending.
I love that.
And it's really not an ending, because Steve is our Purr Podcast announcer. Steve is the one who does our intros.
And we have to thank him specifically for that.
So
and
you
also,
hear him every time.
and
For getting his
also-
name wrong.
Yes, okay.
I tried. I need to do a retake.
That's
on
funny
that.
because it's every time when I listen myself to the podcast, and I do, that intro is like, oh, there he goes again. It's really funny, and I have to laugh because it was sorry for saying sorry. But
That's the name of our media company, by the way.
Oh, is it?
Sorry
really?
for saying sorry.
It's Canadian.
It's
Canadian.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's exactly it. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, guys.
This has been awesome. So
Yeah.
great interview, and we would
We'll
love
do
to
it
have you
again.
back, because there's so many things that we could talk about, especially about the Winn Foundation, what you do very well. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
guys.
The opinions of this podcast are those by Dr. Susan Little and Dr. Jolle Kirpenstein. Veterinary medicine is a complex profession, and often there are multiple diagnostic and therapeutic options for different disease processes. If you're a pet owner with questions, please go to your local veterinarian. If you're a veterinary professional, ask your questions on our Instagram page @Purr Podcast. Dr. Susan Little is a feline medicine specialist with 2 cat-only hospitals in Ottawa, Canada. She is best known as an international speaker and as the author and editor of 2 textbooks, The Cat, Clinical Medicine and Management, and August, Consultations in Feline Internal Medicine. Along with 3 cats, She also admits to owning 2 dogs, and you can follow her on social media with the handle @CatVetSusan. Dr. Jolle Kirpenstein is a diplomate of the American and European College of Veterinary Surgeons and a big cat fan. His specialties range from surgical oncology and reconstruction to minimally invasive surgery. He is the author of 2 textbooks on basic and reconstructive surgery. Did you know he was allergic to cats? Jolle works currently at Hill's Pet Nutrition. You can follow him on social media with the handle @GVETSX.